Beth Johnson, thank you for agreeing to talk to us. You're our special guest this year at our Edinburgh convention. I see on the model table you have a great display of quite innovative, colourful and attractive models. I wonder if you can talk us through some of them and give us some of the design inspiration that goes behind the creation of these designs.
Yes, one of the things I like to do is incorporate tessellations into my designs, and in fact, I don't think I knew what tessellations were with my first design. I've been folding for a long time, but I am kind of new to, I was just folding from books that I had at home, or I'd find maybe at the bookstore every few years or something. And I discovered that all these people were designing online, and I thought, oh, I'll give that a go. And my very first design actually has a tessellation in it, and I didn't even realize that at the time, and then came across all of these wonderful patterns online. And like many people, I'm drawn to the textures and the shapes and the geometric aspect of these, and have this just desire, I guess, to try to put those into designs, or I'll see a texture in the pattern that reminds me of something. And one good example of that is my Hedgehog, which, you know, the model is designed around the pattern. So I'll see the pattern, and I would say a good many of my designs with tessellations are designed after seeing the pattern and thinking, oh, that just reminds me of something in particular, and the shape around the eyes. So this is one example. I would say at least half, if not more, of my models have these tessellations incorporated. And here's another example with my owl. And I'll see a pattern that reminds me of feathers. Actually, this was designed around the eyes, but which is something else. A lot of my design approach as well is I doodle with paper, and I'll put a grid into a paper and just manipulate it and see different lines or things that I like.
Some of your models, I see you've combined a classic tessellation technique and a much more folded surface. I find that quite interesting because we haven't really seen very much of that. Could you talk us through what inspires that kind of design?
So a lot of what I'll do also, which well, I'm sure other folders do this, the folding sequence will put lines in there, but once I've designed it to keep it clean, I will then score out the pattern and fold it to keep this area clean of any lines. So it looks a lot nicer.
But is that important to you? That's important.
Very important,
to
yes.
Take those surface creases out.
Absolutely, and this is another pattern that is built on a grid, a triangle grid, and I'll take those extra folds out once I have that pattern, and some of those provide reference lines for me, but then I work around that, and you can still work out a folding sequence a lot with putting in some crimps, but the much quicker way is to put all those extra creases in, and I don't like those extra creases.
But certainly the presentation of these models is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And they look clean. They're presented as almost, the aesthetic of them is very nice, maybe because of that reason, because you've taken out the extra creases, and it is a sort of folded form, if you like.
Yes, it's very important to me that the models look nice and clean, and the paper choice is a huge part of the process for me in terms of, you know, a lot of my models I've designed and I still don't feel like I found the right paper for them. So it's like a work in progress until I feel satisfied with the paper choice. And you're kind of limited with the paper that's available to you, or that you know about, or that you've worked with. So it's always a challenge.
So, but when does the creative journey end then? Are the pieces you have on display, would you say these are a conclusion of that journey, or are you still searching for a better resolution? Not that you should.
For each model, is there still? I feel like when I'll answer this the way I'm understanding the question. That with an individual model that I'm designing, I feel like I know when it's done. And there's a part of me that will continue to work on it, and it just doesn't feel right. And some of them I'll shelf and then I'll bring back. The sheep, actually, I was working on with one sheet of paper, and let me grab that. So I was trying to get a tessellated coat and using one sheet of paper. and was never really happy with the result. And then at some point later stumbled across the water bomb tessellation, and just reminded me of a sheep's coat. And I thought, why not use 2 sheets? And then even this model, actually, I just changed the body a little bit. So some feel like a work in progress, but many of them also feel like they're complete models, and I'm very satisfied with the finished result. But in terms of creative process as a whole, is that what were you talking? Oh, well, there's always this feeling that I have. I don't know if it's really a fear, but I don't know where the ideas come from necessarily, and you just wonder, will they keep coming?
But say, for example, let's look at your Highland the cattle. Clearly, that's Scottish influence, and that must be. Hopefully.
I designed this for the convention. Yes. So, which is something I don't typically do. A lot of times, I'll get inspiration for a model from something I see, as opposed to I want to design a Highland cattle. And so this is a harder way for me to design, actually, because a lot of times the inspiration will come from something that I've seen that a shape or a sculpture or something that I want to work with. And this was just, I'm taking this animal and I would like to fold a model of that. And that's a lot of times, if I'm interested in folding a new model, I will look at sculptures. I don't look at pictures of owls. I'll look at sculptures of owls, works of art, people that I like. For example, I just did this bird for Centerfold Convention, and I actually did a cardinal. It's a state bird, but this is modeled after one of my favorite illustrators, Charlie Harper, which I'm not sure, he's very popular in the States, and this is an almost exact replica of his birds. He has a lot of different bird illustrations. So I love the lines, I love the shape, and that's it. It really, I have no interest in making it representational per se in terms of proportions or.
But it's following the idea of another artist of saying this is how I could describe a bird.
It's more of, in this particular case, this was, I think, the only thing that I've done as an exact replica, where I was really trying to get the shape of his illustration. But I use them as inspiration, absolutely. And look for, one of my first elephant design was like that, and I was using, I don't have an example here, but I look at sculptures and pieces of, works of art and get inspiration from that. It's not a replica, but it's just inspiration.